everyone, and welcome to the Glow Getter Collective, a first expert interview with the amazing Tiffany Julie. Now, we were originally doing this live, but for some reason, the software that I've been using just had an absolute mental breakdown. I don't know whether it's because it's on the hottest day of the year over here or what, but anyway, we are here and we are doing it anyway, and I'm very, very excited to have Tiffany here with us. Now, Tiffany is a high-performance coach, a business strategist, and is an expert in all things mindset, and she has the most incredible story ever. So I'm super excited for her to be here. She's also trained with Brendon Burchard, who's one of like my holy grail people in terms of personal development and high performance coaching. So I'm super excited to hear her top tips on being trained with him and what she's taken away from it, and some great productivity hacks that she can help you with today. So thank you so much for joining me, Tiffany. I'm so excited to have you here.
Yay, I'm excited to be here too. Thank you for having me.
No problem. So can you tell us a little bit about your journey? Because it's pretty crazy, all of the things that I've heard and that you've told me, and just everything that you've gone through and come out the other side, and how much you've excelled. So it would be great for everybody to kind of know what that journey was.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a loaded question. So where do I start? All right, I'll give you the sort of bullet points along the journey, so we're not here all day. Basically, one day I woke up and had what was an early midlife crisis. So I had been working my whole life. I've always been an entrepreneur. I've been, in the Western mindset of, work, build a business, or climb the ladder, buy the house, have the cars, get married, do the white picket fence thing. And so I was kind of following that path. And I had known for a long time, like, that niggle that just calls you, you're meant for more. This isn't really your life. And I really ignored that call for quite some time, at least half a decade. And I just kept going and going. But I woke up one day and I just was like, wow, I have all the things. I have the house and the boats and the car and the ring and I just had everything. And I had built up this massive business and I was really successful, but I was still so unfulfilled, so unhappy. Like, this is somebody else's life. This is absolutely not my life. It didn't feel authentic. It didn't feel real. And so that was really like a wake-up call, and I just knew I had to change everything. And so I left my relationship, I packed everything, I just, sold my portion of the business to my partner at the time, and I just was out. I was like, hey, I'm gonna follow the one thing that I know, and I've always wanted to travel the world. And, I was looking online to see how you could make money online. I didn't even know that world existed this whole entire time, which was crazy because now that's all I know. And so anyway, I was like, if they can figure it out, I can figure it out, and so I just bought a one-way ticket to Thailand, and I was out like a month later.
Wow, that's amazing. That's so, so cool. And I love that you mentioned about how you built up this business and you built up this life that wasn't actually yours, and then you had the awakening behind it. Because as part of the training that I do in the collective is making sure you're taking the right stairs, but also when you're climbing those stairs, make sure you're in the right building in the first place, because it's so easy just to work super duper hard and then like reflect, turn around, get to where you want to go, and then realize, oh no, I should be over here, and this is the career I want to do, and this is the business that I want to do, and not this.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And that's a lot of the struggle that I find my clients come to me with, because they've built a business that just isn't aligned with their vision of what they see themselves and their life. And so I try to help them get back to that total life and business alignment. They've created a great business, but it just isn't the model that's going to serve the lifestyle they want to have. And so I think that's a really big problem for people. And that's why clarity is so important. That's like the number one thing about high performers, is they have incredible clarity. They're just crystal clear on who they are and where they're going and what those visions really look like. And so, I think it's really important.
So how did you get from traveling in Thailand and just like booking it and being out there for a month to then being a high performance business strategist and mindset coach?
Oh my gosh. Okay. So this is a story. So then the next phase of the journey is I spent like the next 8 months really just doing research and getting lost in analysis paralysis. You know, there's so many ways you can make money online. And I was like, wow, I was so overwhelmed and I just got caught in information overload. I think that's another issue a lot of entrepreneurs, especially new entrepreneurs online, get caught up in. And so, you know, I definitely dragged my feet on starting a business, but what actually happened in the meantime of me figuring it out is I woke up blind on my 32nd birthday, which is been a crazy journey of healing and exploring myself and my soul and like what my purpose in the world really is. And that's what actually led me to Brendon, because through that experience, I think that's what started my own high performance journey of, you know, visualizing and getting even more clarity on all the things, who I am, how I want to show up in the world, and, you know, living with just more intention. And you just never know what's going to happen around the next corner. And so it's sort of like learning how to enjoy the journey and not like suffering through it, I think was another big lesson through that. But anyway, so through that, I was diving into like Hay House and Wayne Dyer and Mastin. Kipp became a big mentor of mine through that time. And I was just really diving into personal development because it was obviously a stressful time to go through an experience. And I was seeking support anywhere I could to find the answers to get myself out of it.
So you woke up blind on your 32nd birthday. Like, what was the process that then happened after that? Was it like complete blindness? Because you can see me right now. So like, what happened?
Okay. Yeah, it was complete. I just woke up. I was in excruciating pain. I got rushed to the hospital. Nobody knew it was happening to me. I kind of got misdiagnosed. That's a whole other story. But I flew to the US on an emergency flight back, and I went to the best corneal specialists that there were in the country. And they had no clue what was happening to me. They have never seen this case ever. I literally became their science experiment over the next 8 months, like while I was in the black, having to learn how to live my life completely turned upside down, right? And so they basically told me there was no medical solution for me and that I would just probably never be able to see again in my life. And I looked at them right? And I said, hell no, that is not a possibility I am even going to accept and surrender to. And so I went down the rabbit hole of listening to other people's journeys. Goodness, I'm getting goosebumps. Listening to other people's journeys of how they healed themselves from crazy things like cancer and multiple sclerosis and lots of things. And I just started following their path of what they did. You know, every single day I was sitting in meditation for hours. I was visualizing, you know, my sight coming back to me. And it was about 8 months until it started to come back slowly. But the process of that was like, well, it started to come back and I could only see white. And it looked like I was just always in a cloud and just seeing shadows. And anyway, so it started to slowly come back. And once I saw light again, I was like, all right, I'm back to traveling. And I didn't want this to change the direction that I was going in, because I knew I wanted to travel the world. I knew I wanted to make money online. I knew that, you know, those things. And so I just continued to go after them. So while I was healing myself, I actually built up a business. And in that first year, it did over $1 million in sales. And I learned how to use my computer without being able to see. I was having people dial the phone. I was getting distributors. So I built up an e-commerce store during that time, because that's where I kind of decided I was going to go before this happened. And I just hadn't gotten around to taking the steps yet before this gift arrived. And I truly believe it was probably one of the greatest gifts of my life, because it led me to really being able to serve others and helping them to really be able to tap into their own personal power and bring that forward to live into their potential, because I was playing massively small. And I think I would have continued down that path if I didn't get the awakening of this in my life.
Yeah, and I love that you managed to build up such a successful business whilst you were trying to heal your own body and heal your own eyes. That is absolutely insane. And like, props to you, because like there's so many people that do play small, and I know I've been guilty of it myself, where I'm like, oh well, I'll just do this, and it's always that just word that you put in front of something, and then you're like, and you have to pick yourself up on it, because then you realize that, oh crap, I'm playing small with this, or like I'm not stepping into something because it scares me a bit, and I'm not doing it, and I'm making all these excuses. And I've been speaking to some of my clients, and they've been like, yeah, so I'm doing this, but I'm kind of doing this, and I'm not doing this, and like I feel like I could. And then we pick it apart a little bit, and it's essentially because they're scared about stuff, but people are almost scared about admitting they're scared. So I find that's really interesting as well. And you've just gone, this is awful, I'm making it happen, and I'm gonna succeed at it. And then you created this amazing business, and then you went to train with Brendon.
Yeah, because, well, and then after that business was created, it was successful, I started to say, well, I started to ask those bigger questions once I continue to heal more and more and more, like why? You know, like, why did this happen to me? Like, this has to be for a purpose. Like, I believe everything happens for us. And so I went down that hole of like, okay, how can I use this for good? And how can I help other people through whatever situations they're going through? Because you don't have to have a wake up call that big in order to align your life to really thrive and live into your potential, right? And so I wanted to really share that message with people. And so I trained with Mastin Kipp first, and he's the one who really taught me how to be a coach. And I trained with him for a few months. And then his mentor is Brendon, and that's how I kind of got introduced to Brendon's world. And of course, as a coach and striving to be a master at my craft, you know, I'm always going to events. I'm always looking for the next course or thing that I can continue to learn so that I can show up and be the best coach possible. And so then I went to Brendon's events and found out he has the coaching program where he coaches you on how to coach and be a high performance coach. And so, you know, he's the best in the industry, and I love to learn from the best. And so, yeah, I trained with him, which was an incredible experience, and it's absolutely changed the way I coach, and my clients just are getting massive results. And it's a beautiful process to see.
Oh, that's so cool. So I'd love to ask you a little bit more about the coaching side and what you've learned from it, in terms of what are like the 3 most important things that you learned from the coaching that you love to help your clients with.
Yeah, that's a good question. There's so many. To pick just 3 is really hard. But I think number 1 is clarity. So like we were saying before, everything else behind that. So in order to be productive, in order to have influence, in order to have joy and fulfillment, truly to the highest level that you can, it all starts with the visioning. It all starts with the clarity. And if you aren't clear, that's when overwhelm and frustration and anxiety and all those lower level emotions start to come in, because, you know, and then you could find yourself working so hard and you wind up somewhere and you're like, wow, this is not at all where I wanted to be. So I think number 1 is clarity, and all high performers have like this incredible, like this impeccable version of clarity in their life. And that's how they're able to align every single day, every single goal, everything else, how they show up in the world, to that piece of clarity. But I think clarity comes down to not just like, what do I want to do with my life, or what are my goals? What do I want to achieve? High performers, I've found, they have 3 different areas where they're really clear. So they're clear on their goals, they're clear on what they want to achieve and what they want to, those outcomes, but they're also clear on who they are. Like, they have massive clarity on who they are. And they also have clarity on how they want to show up in their relationships and for the people in their life, you know, their team, and how they want to show up every day. And they're also clear on who they have to show up as every day in order to achieve those things. So it's like, you know, visioning, like, the person that got us here today cannot get us to the next level. Like, we have to literally be somebody else, right? And so it's not about becoming, it's just a decision and a choice every single day to align yourself with that person that's already inside of yourself and pull that forward in order to move along. So I think that's probably like number one.
Yeah, that is amazing. And it's so funny for everybody who's come on as a member. One of my favorite quotes that I put in the deck that I show everybody is, the level of thinking that got you here won't get you there. So you literally have to change. So I love that you just said you literally have to be a different person for the things that you want to achieve. You've got to know who you are now and who the person you want to be is, and then start becoming that person right now, so then you can get there. So I love that with what you said about it. And so in terms of the clarity about who people are, and you said that high performers know who they are, how do people, if they're new to this, start to figure out who they are?
Yeah, absolutely. So it just takes you sitting down and saying, what's the highest version of myself? Like, what does my best self look like? And you can boil it down to 3 words. So I love to have my 3 self words, we call it. So getting clarity on those 3 words. So mine are bold, vibrant, and leader. And so that's the best expression of myself, you know? And so every single day I'm stepping into being my highest self. And so then the next piece would be, okay, so you want to come up with interaction words. So how do you want to show up? Like, the energy you bring to your relationships is super important, because if you don't have support from people around you, or you're just like mean and grumpy all day long with people, you won't have the support necessary to rise to that next level. So it's so important. Like, your team's not going to want to follow you if you're showing up to these conversations just low vibe. They're going to follow you because you're the leader, right? And so I think that's really important, and getting clear on those interaction words. So maybe your interaction words is patient, present, and bring the joy, or something like that. And then I think the third piece to that would be to find your success words. So you can ask yourself a question of, you know, what makes me successful? Because you are at some level of success today. So what has gotten you there? Maybe it's consistency. Maybe you're resilient. Maybe you're a genius and you just figure everything out and you believe in yourself. You know, what are those 3 words? Or, you know, if you want to vision even further, say, you know, what do I have to do that I haven't been doing to get me to the next level, right? So, and you could also interchange some of that. It's different for everybody. But then getting intentional about having reminders or triggers throughout the day, so that you are reflecting on, have I been this person? I do it every single 50 minutes. I'm asking myself, have I shown up over the last hour as a bold, vibrant leader? And if I haven't, then I look back and I say, okay, how can I do that better? And I think what gets measured can get optimized. And I think, you know, I love to look at myself sort of like as a Facebook ad. You know, I'm always taking inventory of myself, because that's the only way. You know, if you don't have those triggers or those reminders, I just have an alarm on my phone that goes off and it flashes those words. And I think it's a great practice to get into, because days or weeks could go by where you're not living into that person and you didn't realize it, and you see no progress and no momentum, and you're getting frustrated. And then that's when things start to go downhill from there, and people want to start to give up, or they lose even more momentum because now they're not, you know, they haven't seen any progress.
Oh, I love that so much. You know, when you just hear something and you're like, yes, yes, I love all of this. Yeah, it's so my jam. And so I find it so important that people get the mindset and get the clarity right, first of all, because I always say it's the Alice in Wonderland quote: if you don't know where you're going, then any place will get you there. So it's when you can start to get this clarity and ask those questions, which I find that a lot of people, we just don't get taught to do. You don't get taught to go, okay, well, what is the best version of myself? And you just kind of get swept along with a lot of like life, as it were. And then you end up, like, say 20 years down the line going, well, who am I and what have I done? And like, what do I want to achieve and who do I want to be? And it's it is easy in a way to then be able to create yourself as something like the best version of yourself. And it can be hard work, but it can also be really fun. And so I love the questions that you've said about like asking yourself about the 3 self words and the interaction words. I've been writing notes so I can put a little worksheet with this for the members. and then your success words, I think they're absolutely fab. And it's a couple of those I've never done before, so I'm going to have to go and do them for myself. So thank you for that. So
yeah, absolutely.
I know we went to, I cut you off on clarity as the first thing that you said was really important for high performers and what you'd want to teach your clients. What would be the other two?
Second would be energy. So we can have all the clarity in the world. We can know where we're going, but if you don't have enough energy, there's no way you're going to get there. And you're going to move at snail speed. And then maybe along the journey, you might want to give up because you don't see that result, right? And so high performers are very outcome driven. They want to see the outcome of the work that they're doing and as fast as possible, right? I think we all do. So energy is like a really huge, when I've been diving into the high performance and as I'm working with high performers, this is the number one priority on their daily to-do list. Like I will show up and generate energy. Because the thing is we're not always going to get up in the morning and feel like, woohoo, like I'm so excited to get to my list of stuff today, you know, like it's just not happens every day. And so we have to, like, the power plant doesn't have energy, it generates it. So we don't just wake up with energy, like, you know, we need to generate that energy in some way for ourselves. And I think that's a journey, and it's a really personal one for people, because how I may generate energy for myself, those tricks and hacks may not work for you. And so I think it's like this beautiful journey of like figuring out how you can, you know, really be vibrant from the inside out, and what is the things that helps you to get there. And now energy is really cool because we get energy from a lot of places in our life. Now people immediately think, okay, I got to work out, I got to drink water. Like they automatically go to food and working out, right? Like, what am I eating and am I working out? But the thing is energy comes from our relationships, right? Like if you have draining people in your life and you're surrounding yourself with people who don't think, you know, they're kind of taking you down, like that takes your energy. Or if you have a lot of distraction during your day and you don't have really good boundaries, that can take a lot of your energy. If you don't have a good mindset and you're like listening to the negative Nancy in your head all day long, that takes your energy. Like if you're worrying about your bank account all day long, like financially, that takes your energy. And so I think it's becoming aware of where your energy is going today, and then trying to see, okay, well, where are these energy drains happening in my life? Cleaning them up would be like the first step. So, you know, if you find yourself always listening to the negative Nancy, it's like, okay, well, what would I have to believe about myself in order to achieve my dreams? And just every time, you know, it wants to say some crazy crap to you that isn't even true, you have to just keep reprogramming this other sort of mindset. Or maybe, you know, you lag energy at 2 o'clock every single day. So how can you generate it? You know, for me, I breath scale all the time. I'm doing a full oxygen exchange into my brain and out the carbon dioxide, because carbon dioxide actually slows you down throughout the day and takes away your focus.
Okay, so, can I stop you there for a second? Yeah. What is that? What is a breath scale? So
breath scaling is basically you take, like, you're like in through your nose and you kind of visualize the air going to your brain and then out through your mouth. And like you do that like 20, 50, 100 times over again. And afterwards, you just have an immense amount of clarity in your mind and in your brain and in your body. And it's way better than a caffeine high will ever give you. It doesn't take very long. So I'm generating energy every 50 minutes throughout the day. So I schedule 50-minute time blocks all throughout the day, and the 10 minutes off, I'm generating energy. I'm checking in with my self-words. I'm not checking social media. I'm not checking email. I'm focused on what my priorities are for the day. And if I have interruptions, I politely discard myself from the situation. And then I may add it to my, you know, agenda later on or at some other point to get to it. But I stay very clear on my path. So I think, yeah, energy is just really important.
Yeah, I love that so much. And I always find that my energy drain is my phone. And I've got an app on that, which I actually, in full transparency, have not been using over the past probably month. And I need to get back to it. It's, I've got my phone here. What's it called? Flipped, where it takes out, you can set it for like an hour, 4 hours, or 8 hours, where it takes all of the social media apps off your phone. And you can still receive calls and text messages if you need them, but I never get text messages. I would only get calls. So like, which like that doesn't really happen either, because all of my stuff happens on email. So yeah, my phone is my number one like energy drain, and then email is as well, because I think it's so easy to be able to make excuses about, well, I've got to reply to that email within 5 minutes of them sending it, otherwise like I'm awful and I've got an awful business. And it's like, hang on a second, like we're not brain surgeons here, nobody is going to die if we don't reply within the next 5 minutes. So I think they're definitely my two. Now I don't know if anybody else watching feels that as well, but it's so important. And I love what you say about like doing the 50-minute time blocks and then having the 10 minutes to regroup and recalibrate and not check social media and then go back in, because it's all about doing that deep work and getting further to where you want to with the vision of your life. So then you can go, okay, yeah, I've achieved all of these things today, and now I can look on social media and it's fine. So yeah, I absolutely love that. So what would be your third and final one then?
Yeah, just a note on what you said is, remember, because the email is a huge thing with high performers, right? Because they're running massive businesses and they're doing a lot of things, and email is definitely in everyone's life. But remember, at the end of the day, it's just a fancy organization system of other people's agendas.
Oh, yeah.
So it's not our agenda, right? So it's like, okay, how do we prioritize the inbox? And this is a lot of work I do with my clients. It's probably like one of the number one things we go over in energy, is because then once they can prioritize their inbox, then they understand how to then schedule it. So it's not so overwhelming when you have a strategy in place. But anyway, so I think after energy, it would be mindset. I mean, high performers have an incredible, they manage their mind like impeccably, right? So like we were saying earlier, all those lower level emotions, frustration, anger, fear, is just mismanagement of the mind. And so it's constantly like asking ourselves the question of, you know, like, what would I have to believe about myself to achieve my dreams? And redirecting yourself in the moments when you catch yourself. But it does take effort. It takes time to reprogram, you know, yourself and those old programs that may be running in there that aren't serving you. But at the end of the day, if you don't have a good mindset and you don't have that belief in yourself, like, you're just not going to achieve what you set out to do. And so this is really important as well. Yeah. And they're just really clear about and being intentional every single day about installing those new beliefs.
Yeah, I love that so much. And it really, really is important to just like back yourself, because if you're not going to back yourself and believe in what you're doing, then it does show up that people don't buy from you. They don't like take you seriously, and they don't support you in ways that if they felt that you were absolutely 100% sure and confident in yourself, and you had that belief in what you were doing and wanted to put out into the world, then people believe with you, and then they want to support you more in your journey. So like, it really, really is just so important. Like, and I love those tips so much. They were absolutely incredible. Woo, thank you. So
You're welcome.
I was talking in the collective, the members have been learning a bit about visioning and goals this month. And we've also been doing values exercises and then vision boards as well. And then they've had their 90-day plans and then broken them down into like weekly goals of what they want to achieve. So what are the super important mindset things that they should do to help them get clarity on like what they want to achieve and by when? Because I noticed you had a really great article on 90-day plans, but also mindset stuff as well. And now correct me if I'm wrong on that. I might have missed the mark completely, but you had some really great tips that I'd love for you to share.
Yeah, absolutely. I think, well, number one, goals should scare the shit out of you. So
love that.
If like, when the first thing my clients come to me and they're like, they tell me their goals, and I'm like, well, is that what you think you can get or achieve, or is that what you want to achieve? And then the number of, if it's a money number, it changes. It usually doubles. If it's, you know, they want to speak on stage, then now they want to write a book too, right? So it's like, we always set those goals first within our comfort zone, but that's not what high performance is about. It's always pushing to that next level. Even when you think you're a 10, there's more that that can come out of you. And I know that from what I was capable of doing. So, and it's like, well, number one, your goals should scare you. If you look at your goals and you don't like, how am I going to do that kind of thing? Like, how am I going to accomplish that? Then you're just playing small. So number one, like if they don't, it becomes a to-do list, not a dream list.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's the difference. Number two, in terms of deadlines, would be, we also need to set deadlines that scare us as well, because time fills the space we allow it. So have you ever, had a deadline on something, say like you were in college and you had to write a paper and you procrastinated because you knew you had 3 weeks, but you wrote it the night before in 2 hours. Well, you could have done that 2 weeks ago and you could have gotten so much more accomplished. So it's like we are capable of getting things done in a crazy efficient amount of time. But the thing is, I see so many people saying, okay, well, it's going to take me a long time to get to 10,000 followers or whatever. And so they sort of lag their feet because that's the mindset behind it, right? But if you tell yourself you're going to have 10,000 followers in 3 weeks, it's absolutely possible because somebody else did that along the way. You just have to know the action steps to take and be consistent with that. So I think setting deadlines also needs to be clipped pretty short and be like how the heck am I going to achieve that in that amount of time?
I love that. So I'm just writing the notes here as well. So I've got deadlines that scare us, and then make sure the time scales are shorter as well. I'm definitely one of those people that goes, oh, I'm just going to eke the time scales a little bit. So and then that's just an example of me playing small again. So I love this because I'm doing this for all the members, but then also I'm getting so much out of it as well. So thank you.
Yeah, absolutely.
So with these really big, hairy, audacious goals that you and I and everybody's setting that do scare the shit out of us, how do you deal with, I know that you've said like double it, but then when it's out of the zone of like our realm of like consciousness almost, or reality at the moment, and then trying to break that down, and then as we sometimes don't always hit those goals, how do you deal, or how do you help people when they've set these massive goals but then they haven't hit them?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what would be your advice with that? Just because I find like sometimes I'll pick these amazing, really big goals out of like thin air and then go, yeah, okay, I can feel really good about this. I'm really excited about it, but it also scares me. And I try and I have an action plan for it, but then sometimes you just don't hit them.
Mm-hmm, mm-hmm. No, absolutely. So I think, well, the first thing I would say would be when we take goals out of thin air, and I used to do this with my money goals, I would just see like what Amanda Francis was up to on the internet, and I'd be like, oh, she had 100K month, so next month I'm going to just have 100K month, right? Yeah. But there's no emotional engagement with that goal because it's not actually mine, right? So I think it starts with understanding, like, again, clarity here. Right? We've got to be very clear on, okay, well, if I want to speak on stage, what do I have to do today to accomplish that as quickly as possible? Do I have to get comfortable on video? Like, making that list, and then that becomes sort of like your actionable list. But I think people fall off the map, number one, on achieving their goals and their deadline because they aren't emotionally engaged with them on a daily basis. So this is where visualization comes in, or mental rehearsal, comes in really well. But there's lots of other things. You can write out your goals every day. You can pull out your why list. Why are you showing up today for this list, right? This to-do list, because a to-do list isn't sexy, but if you can put some emotional engagement behind it, then that's what's going to fuel you to just have an absolutely amazing day and show up with excellence. If you know why you're doing it, if you know who it's for outside of you, because we will move mountains for other people when things kind of get in our way, but we won't do that for ourselves. Right? And so if we have other people on our list, this is for my audience, or this is for my partner because I want to retire him, or this is for my kids because I want to put them through school without stress about money. Like we all have a reason why outside of ourselves. I think the focus there then becomes, it grounds those bigger goals, if you can look at that why list, into like actionable reasons on a daily basis, which I think would help. But number two, I think setting goals and stacking them along each other is also really important, because you need to know what then. Like, okay, so I write the book, but then what? Right? What's the next goal? And so they almost need to stack against each other, because then it gives you motivation. If you don't complete the book by X amount of time, then the next thing after that gets pushed out another year or another 3 months or another month or whatever. And so you have a bigger vision. It's almost like zoning out on your clarity and going, wow, okay, like getting even bigger. So going granular to bigger and stacking those goals on one another, I think then also helps to ground what we're doing today and helping to see the bigger picture of what it's really contributing to overall. And then in terms of when I trained with Lewis Howe, this is what he asked me. He said, okay, how much money do you want to make by the end of the year? And then we were kind of formulating, okay, well, then how are we going to accomplish this? And the number one question he asked me was, okay, well, what is the goal that would absolutely just blow your mind? Like blow your mind. Like you just crushed it. You did so good. You just didn't even think that was possible for you. And, we had that goal. And then he said, okay, that's your stretch goal. So then now what's the goal of like, you have to hit this goal. Otherwise, like it's not even worth going after kind of thing. So like a minimum. So then if you set your goal like that, I think it gives you that area in between. If things come up along the way that may be out of your control or it slowed you down, because it happens, right? Especially if we don't know how to do something. We think it's going to take an hour and it takes 3 days and you're like, oh, I'm so behind. You know, and then it's like, it steals your energy. And so if you can see that sort of, you obviously strive for the stretch goal. That's what you're visioning. That's what you're aligning your actions with. But then you also have that bare minimum goal, because 9 times out of 10, you're going to blow way past the minimum goal. But if you only set the minimum goal, then you could come below the minimum, and then the minimum isn't that exciting for you. And then it's like, well, then you're like, well, what was that worth? You have no fulfillment or vibrancy around it. And so that's how we keep kind of playing small as well. So I think those are the main tips tactically, but on terms of mindset. So being disappointed that we don't hit our goal. Okay, let's get into that, because that is like a complete mindset that I think every entrepreneur has to get themselves into in order to be able to hit the stretch goal. It's like, Tony Robbins says the father of success is action, but the mother of success is acknowledgement. Okay. So if we are not acknowledging ourselves and being proud of what we are accomplishing, and if we're only focusing on what we're not and the lack of, time or the lack of what we didn't do, instead, we need to start honoring ourselves for the action we are taking. Like, holy crap, like, look at what, turning around and looking back at what you've done and being proud of yourself, because a lot of people don't even take action.
Oh, you've just given me goose pimples. Yeah.
Yeah. It's so important. And it's so true. When he said that at one of his events, I just was like, wow, it made so much sense. And this was something I really struggled with. And I think it held me back massively, because I was always down on myself. Like, why don't you accomplish your goals and your dreams? Like, what is wrong with you? And then we start to get into this like downward spiral, and it just takes away all of the fun that we should be having along the way, right? It's like Brendon's like, honor the struggle, and when we can learn to honor the journey and the process and love ourselves through it, that's when you're going to just stretch further beyond your stretch goal, and I know that to be true, because after that, like, I've blown past my stretch goals. Just every single day I acknowledge myself at the end of the day. And I think it takes reflection to go, okay, I ask myself, what are the 3 things today that went really well? And how did I play a part in those? And then I ask myself, well, what 3 things didn't go so well? And how did I play a part in those? And if I had the chance tomorrow to do them again, how would I do them with excellence? And this is like that self-reflection piece that has to happen in terms of just optimizing yourself.
I love that so much. And I think it's so we do that all the time, where we just carry on with our day and don't think about, like, we probably get to the end of the week or the end of the month or the end of the year, and then just not think, well, what was really great and that I can really give myself credit for, but then also what can I improve on so I do achieve my goals, or I do get better and I do go further. And it's so important that we do that. And I love that. And you've reminded me to do it more, because I'm very much the person who doesn't appreciate what I've done during either the day or the week or the year, because it's just so easy not to, because I think as entrepreneurs, you're always going on to the next goal and the next goal and the next goal if you hit it. And then if you don't hit it, then you're like, oh, you go down this little spiral, and then you have to like dig yourself back out of it. Whereas if we can just enjoy and, like you said, honor the struggle and go, okay, it's normal to be like this, it's normal to feel like this, but just keep going, rather than going down that rabbit hole of like despair and feeling bad about ourselves and giving up, then we get so much further so much quicker. So I really, really love that. And you've just reminded me of like making sure that I reflect every day on like what's gone well and what's not gone well, and how I've played a part in it and how I can do it better tomorrow. So thank you for that. So are there any, I know we've spoken about like mindset and clarity, but are there any specific productivity hacks I use the word hacks lightly, but I know that we mentioned about you have like a 50-minute time schedule where you block everything out. Is there anything else that you do to help yourself in terms of productivity hacks that you would recommend your people that you coach to do?
Oh my God, I love productivity. So I could talk to you about this like all day, every day. To pick just a few things is like, okay, what do I pick? So I think number one is you have to serve yourself first. And this is a big issue for entrepreneurs. They get up, they check their phone, they're in reactive mode. They're reacting to everyone else's agendas. They get sucked down, that rabbit hole of social media checking, the email checking. And then they're not being able to show up intentionally with those words. Like, who do I want to show up as today? What do I want to get done? What's going to make me feel really accomplished, really good about this day, and intentionally setting it up for success. Because I think if you can start to set yourself up every morning for success, the more days that you have that are consistently successful, the easier and the more quicker you're going to get to where it is that you're going. Like this first goal, right? Because we always have that next goal. So it's more of a journey, like not really a destination. So I think my morning routine is sacred to me. I just won't miss a day, even when I'm traveling. Like there isn't a time where I don't at least take 30 minutes. And I know not a lot of people have a massive amount of time. Okay. If you have kids or you have multiple businesses, I get that. I understand that. I work with a lot of people who don't have 4 hours to just dedicate to self-care. But the thing is it doesn't have to take a long time to get intentional. So it could literally, you could start tomorrow with just 10 minutes and say, okay, like what are the 3 things that I'm going to get done today? What am I committing to? What are my whys? What do I have to believe about myself to get them done? How do I want to show up today for everyone else? Who else is this for? And what would be like the greatest expression of myself? And then just take a few moments to like close your eyes and be in silence. So you're open to receive, because sometimes we're always asking for like the answers. How am I going to achieve this? How am I going to, get on this interview or whatever? But we don't take the time to be open to receive the answer. So oftentimes the answers are coming, but we're so busy and we're so clouded. There's never any space. And so like that would be my number one suggestion, because when I'm on the treadmill and I have nothing in my ears and I'm just clear, or I'm in my meditation, I always receive the answers. And those answers, when you follow those answers, that's the quickest path to get you, because that's your intuition talking to you. You got to take the time to listen to it. So that would be like my number one thing. I built a program, High Performance Morning Mastery, as you know, because this is like everybody I work with, when we do this, they accomplish, like, they just blow by their goals. They're like, wow, I get it, I understand, but it just takes that intentional practice to put it in place. So that's number one.
And I'm doing that this weekend because you gave me access to it. So I'm so excited to do it. So I'll report back to everyone how good it is.
Okay, cool. Yeah, there's a lot of information in there, but what works for me in the morning may not work for you. And so I built the program intentionally so that there's enough information for people to pick whatever resonates with them in the moment. And again, the next round of goals, you may need something completely different. What I was doing for my morning routine 30 days ago is completely different than what I'm doing now, because my goals are different. So it's like that alignment throughout everything. That's really so important. And then again, it takes clarity. If you don't know where you're going, then how are you going to align anything else to it? So number 2, like blocks of time. We talked about that. The third most important thing I think is to eliminate distractions and have really great boundaries. And this doesn't just mean with everyone else in your life, this means with yourself. So, you know, like what is really taking that inventory and saying, I think it would be really great. And I have my clients do this every hour. I have them track their time for like the first week we work together. They give me their time tracker and then we start to go, wow, like, where's your time going? I have a client who built $1 million business with 15-minute time blocks, right? So it's replacing the 15-minute time blocks that we scroll on social media and then it ends up 15 minutes, 40 minutes later, we're on some cat video and we're like, how the heck did I get here? Like, what have I been doing for 40 minutes? Like, right? So it's about becoming aware, that awareness of yourself and where you're really focusing your time. High performers are very clear on exactly what they did the last 50 minutes. Like they know, and there's no scrolling and comparing yourself to other people's journeys. And we can get, the mindset starts to go. And then it just is like this rabbit hole of everyone else's agenda. You know, what social media is just everyone else's agenda, you know, with the ads and their posting and whatever, right? It could be good or it could, you know, be not so good for you. Either way, it doesn't matter. It's somebody else's agenda. So like focus on you and your lane and what you want to accomplish and eliminate anything else. So it's like boundaries with yourself, but then boundaries with other people, especially if you work at home, you know, or with somebody else, or, you know, me and my partner, we work from home together and we were totally interrupting each other all the time. And when I started tracking my time, I track my time all the time. But when I started to really be like, okay, I have these big audacious goals, like I have to set better boundaries. We had to start working in separate rooms, knowing like, hey, we have this 30-minute time block where we're going to meet together because we also own businesses together. So, you know, we have this 30-minute block of time we're going to dedicate to, you know, leaving the interruptions out and putting them all in that 30-minute time block. So I think like however you take that in your life and apply that knowledge, I think it takes the awareness, 1, and then 2, to kind of organize yourself and clean it up. The 4th thing would be do the most important thing first. Absolutely. If you haven't read the book by Brian Tracy, Eat Your Frog, like it's awesome.
Yeah, it's great.
And it's so right. Because if you do, like, just think about every single morning, this is should be part of your morning routine. Like what's the one thing that I can get done today that I'm going to feel like I smashed like it out of the park? Like I just had the greatest day ever. And it's usually the thing that we don't want to do the most. Right? It's usually the thing that just keeps going from day to day on the list. You know, maybe it's the Facebook ad funnel that you just, it's like pulling teeth to get you to do, or, you know, whatever, hiring that next team member that you know is going to help you to go to the next level, but it's a process, you know? And so I think when you do that, you get a massive amount of momentum because you're like, wow, it's only like noon and I just feel so productive. And then it naturally is that evolution. You want to do more, right? Like, what else can I get done? And then, or maybe you don't want to get anything else done. You just want to go get a massage or go shopping or go to lunch with your friends or whatever and enjoy your life, right? So it's like, if you do the number one thing first, I think that helps, especially thinking about in terms of money. I think it should also be associated with, so taking that a step further, it should be associated with a money-making activity. So a lot of people in their business, they have a fear of selling consciously or unconsciously. And so they always leave the funnels, the selling. How can I get visible today in front of whoever's going to buy my offer? Like whatever you're offering, I don't care if it's a physical product, if you're a coach or if you're a service-based business, it's the same thing. I think if you can ask yourself, how can I be visible? What do I have to do today to reach as many people as possible and have that be the first thing? Your bank account will explode. And that's going to alleviate so much more in your business, because then it's money that you can reinvest to hire team members or to do more Facebook ad funnels or whatever. Like money just makes things easier, right? And I think everyone wants more money. I don't know who doesn't want more money, right? Yeah. So this is a big piece that I think a lot of entrepreneurs forget, is we're so caught up in the minutia of the fonts and the colors and the Canva and the quote cards and all the stuff that doesn't matter. Really, at the end of the day, like it does matter, but like it's not the priority that matters. And so just becoming clear of what that looks like, I think you can really fuel your business that way.
I think also some entrepreneurs, and I've been in this myself partly, we just want to help people. And it's like, it's not about the money. And it's like, well, actually it is, because if you can help more people and you can show up more and like give more to the world and be more of service if you've got the money side sorted. But I think, especially as Brits, we don't talk about money. It's just like, but I think it's a really important thing to discuss in terms of, you do need to think about your business and the money that's coming in and the money that's going out, and eating that frog first and making sure that you're doing that activity that's going to help generate that money, because then otherwise, what's the point? Because you're not going to be able to, if you've not got money, you've not got a business, essentially, have you?
And I think, and I mean, just expanding on that, it's a mindset, right? So it's like, okay, it may not be about you. The money may not be about you. Maybe you don't want a Louis Vuitton. Maybe you don't care about things, maybe whatever, but what is it for? Is it for the charity you want to donate? Is it for the wells you want to build in Cambodia? Is it for, is it about you honoring your message? Like, what is the solution you're bringing to the world? And it can be a product too, right? Like, what, I own an e-commerce store. I sell things. Like, I give people a hobby, right? That's how I view my store. It's not like I'm selling a widget. I'm giving them something to do that they love. It's their passion. They turn it into a business, with these electronics I'm selling them. So it's a mindset behind it. It's like, if you can then zone out and know what the bigger meaning is behind the money, and you can reach more people and you can make a bigger impact, right? Like, look at Oprah Winfrey and Tony Robbins. Like, every day they're focusing on, how can I generate more in my business, but to then give back and serve more. So if we take the focus off of us, 9 times out of 10, we're going to push through and we will do that thing. If it's about other people that we want to serve.
I love that so much. And you mentioned mindset again there. And before we were talking a little bit about, you've got to believe in yourself to know that you can do and achieve and be everything that you want and everything that you want to have. But we do sometimes have those moments, and maybe those days or even months or even years, if it's really bad, where we don't believe in ourselves and don't believe we can truly achieve it. Like, how do you work with people to change their mindset on that, so that they know they can achieve their goals that they really actually want to achieve themselves?
That's a great question. I was just going through my clients. He was reading me his goal list. And as he was reading them, like, he had so much energy. And then all of a sudden he was reading his goal list and there was no passion behind it. There was like no energy. There was like, I could feel the fear on the other end of the line. And I was like, oh, wait, let's stop here, right? And I was like, what do you believe about that goal that you are not energized? Like, when you tell me about your goal, like, you should be like, yeah, I'm going to be a speaker on stage, not like, oh, I want to speak on stage one day at a TED Talk. Like, like, no, this is not, like, what is happening there? And it all has to do with the belief level that it's possible, right? And he was like, wow, it just feels like such a mountain to climb. And I don't know that I have, and then it went tail spinning into, I don't know the energy to do that. I don't know if I have the time to do that. Right. So then it's sitting down with your list. And I think your dream list, and giving yourself an opportunity to say, hey, like, how do I align myself with this? Like, who else has done this? And I think this is really a great practice to do, right? So every day I send a message to somebody that's showing me what's possible for me, and appreciating them and sending them gratitude. Like, holy crap. I'm not saying, oh, I'm not where they are yet, but I'm like, wow, I'm on that journey and you are literally the leader showing me. You've paved the way. All I have to do is show up every day and be consistent. And if it's possible for this person, it's possible for me. So I have a vision board of all the people that I like admire and inspire me, like Brendon and Lewis Howe and Rory Vaden. And I like get myself around them, right? Like, I put myself in the room with them. Like, I sign up for their programs. I'm in their energy all the time. And it makes it seem so much less impossible because I'm around them all the time. I'm around high achieving people. And I think it takes a practice of saying, okay, well, like, who can I get myself around? Who can I send this gratitude message to? Like, showing me what's possible, and shifting from like, oh, how am I going to do this, to like, wow, that's possible. Like, I can figure it out. Like anything's figure outable. And I think more tactically then would be what I take my clients through is when they do the time tracker every hour, I also have them write down what they're thinking. Because 9 times out of 10, people think they're being positive, but we have 90,000 thoughts that go through our mind on a daily basis. We are only aware of 5%. So if you aren't where you want to be, or you don't have the bank account you want to have, something's happening in there that you aren't aware of. So it takes the conscious effort to become aware. And then once we're aware, that's the first step to change. So people are like, wow, they open the curtain and they're like, whoa, and they look what's behind there. And they're like, I never even thought that I was having this doubt about my relationship, or that I'm thinking all the time and I'm worrying about money. Like I never thought I was doing that. So doing that will awaken you. It will shake you up. It will, because how can you change something that you don't know is happening? You can't. So it's like almost inventory of your mind. And this is in the High Performance Morning Mastery Program. And this is an incredible shift for people when we do this, because then we're like, wow, okay, so this is where we're starting. So now what's the opposite of that? So if you're like, you know, your limiting belief is like, well, I've never been successful, so I'm never going to be successful. You know, well, it's like, well, what's the opposite of that you could say to yourself on a daily basis? And I think affirmations are really a great tool to be able to use. And I do a priming sort of in the morning with my affirmations. Like I'm getting my body in motion and I'm yelling them out loud and I'm getting myself amped up. And I'm literally like repetition of those affirmations will reprogram your mind over time. And there's other hacks and tricks that you can do. You know, you have like a 20-minute window before you go to bed where your subconscious mind is just wide open. The door is wide open for you to program whatever you want. But the thing is, a lot of people are just scrolling on their phone. And they go to bed and they're like, that's the last thing they saw was what somebody else was doing that they're not doing. So they're programming that belief like, wow, maybe I can't do that, or I'm not further along, or they're comparing. And it's like, no, use that 20 minutes to visualize yourself achieving what you want to achieve and programming those thoughts in, like, I'm unstoppable. Like, what's going to get you there? Okay, I'm unstoppable. I take massive action. You know, I'm a high performer. Like, and feeling those affirmations within your body, that's like so real that you're like, when you visualize, your mind doesn't know the difference between if it happened or if it didn't. Right. So I think just that repetition and that practice and that programming, or some people, they write it down. I used to write it down every single day. I am the person that makes $100,000 a month, right? I am a person over and over again while I was drinking my coffee. And, you know, you'll achieve the goal that you do if you write it down every day. And so it's just kind of like, think about your mind as, you know, this forest, and the well-paved path you can tell, right? Maybe that's, oh my gosh, how am I going to do this? I don't believe in myself, blah, blah, blah. Whatever the stories are over here, you've like worn that path down. It's just about wearing out the other path and letting the other one overgrow itself. And over time, like, and it doesn't have to take a long time. It just takes consistent practice of doing it.
It's that C word again, the consistency.
Yeah, absolutely.
I love it, but I hate it at the same time, because, you know, when you hear it and you're like, oh God, I've got to be consistent. I'm not doing it again. So yeah, but it's so true, because all amazing things do actually stem back to just being consistent with what you want to achieve. And if you're consistent and you take those steps, no matter how slowly you go, you'll get there eventually, won't you? So I love that so much. So when things aren't happening quickly enough, do you recommend everything that you've just talked about then, that people go through that and go, okay, well, the reason why it's not happening quick enough is, let's go back to the time tracking. Let's go back to the beliefs that we've got on our head whilst we're doing that work and tracking. Or is there anything else that you would recommend? Because we always want to achieve our goals way quicker than like what we set out, for the most part, unless we're in that fear-based mindset where we like push it back a bit and just keep pushing it back. Is there anything else you'd recommend, or is it just everything that you've said previously?
I think you have to figure out why. if you don't know why, the root cause of the problem, if maybe you're going too slow, there could be a big reason that you're not aware. So it takes the tracking of, yeah, maybe where's your time going? Where's your energy going? Maybe you don't track, maybe you're like, you track the week and you're like, what did I actually do? Or maybe you're always fighting with your significant other, and that's holding you back emotionally from being able to, contribute to what you want in your life. So I think it does take that awareness of why, and then pivoting, right? And not just with you, but with the strategies in your business. So if your Facebook ad funnel isn't working, you're not going to throw more money at it and think it's going to solve the problem, right? Like, we've got to address them. We've got to understand. We've got to be tracking and measuring. So working with Brendon, like, we have monthly calls and everything. And he's like, he tells us, he's like, don't work on anything that you cannot track. Because if you cannot track it, it can't be optimized, and you don't know if it's working or if it's not working. Right? So I always view everything I'm doing as like a Facebook ad, because you can see the analytics really clearly. You know if it's converting or not. You may have to figure out where along the path it might not be. But the thing is like, you can see the numbers. Yeah. So until you have that awareness about yourself, your time, your energy, your courage, like maybe you weren't, high performers are bold. They take bold action every day. Like, maybe you're not taking enough bold action. Maybe you're taking action, but you're working on busy work, not your life's work. And that's the difference.
Yeah,
right? That's the difference.
Yeah, I love that. And I think it also maybe comes back to the difference between aspirational goals and process goals as well, which I talk about a little bit, where it's a case of, well, the aspirational goals you might not necessarily always have control over, but the process ones you absolutely do. So if it's a case of you need to have 10 sales calls per day to be able to hit that potentially aspirational goal, and even if you don't hit it, but you get into the practice of doing the process goal every single day, you then start to become a different person who then achieves those goals in the end eventually. Or at least you can then track it to go, okay, well, actually 10 isn't enough, I need to be doing 20. And then, like you said, if you can track it, then at least you can measure it, and you can make changes and pivot if you need to. So yeah, I think that's absolutely amazing. So I wanted to just ask one or two more questions, because I'm very mindful of your time. But if you were coaching us, now you might have already answered this question earlier on, but maybe we'll just do a little summary of it, like a quick fire. If you were to coach everybody as a whole who's on the call, what were the key things that you would do every single day? What would you make them do? So it would be time tracking, but their morning routine, visualization as part of the morning routine, managing their mindset as part of the time tracking. Would there be anything else? What have I missed off? The getting rid of distractions. That's 5. Would there be anything else, do you think?
So I think on a daily, consistency is key, right? So this is a theme in this call. Consistency is the only way that you're going to hit your goals. So that would be like number 1. Anything else? I think really it's about getting clear about you and who you have to be every single day, and we have to align our thoughts, our actions, and our feelings to the outcomes that we want and that person. Otherwise, it's going to go slow, or it may not happen at all. So, and being that energetic match for what you want, right? So we may get a little woo here, but you can't receive more money if you're not an energetic match for it. It's just the law of physics, right? Like attracts like, and you can call it whatever, law of attraction or whatever you call it. It's just basic physics. And so it's really your state of being is what your energetic level is, right? But your state of being is created by your thoughts and your emotions, right? And then your state of being becomes your personality. So if every day your personality is you're complaining, you're not moving fast enough, why don't I have enough money? Why don't I have enough clients? It's like, no, what do I have to do today to have the client? And aligning over here, not like, why isn't it here? It's like, Successful people just ask themselves better questions.
Yep.
Right? So to ask yourself those questions every day and just align yourself with that person. And I think a lot of people get stuck in the becoming. So I think to change that word from becoming, because you already have everything inside of you that you need to do whatever. Because if somebody else out there did it, you can do it too. But it's just about making that decision every day, every morning, that you are being that person. And that's who you're going to be today. And making those scary decisions based on where you want to be, not where you are today, right? Mm-hmm. So if you want to go, you know, say you're scaling yourself from 10 to 20K, well, maybe you need more help, and stalling hiring that help, even though maybe you don't see the money today and you have to take a loan out or do whatever you have to do. Maybe you have to, I don't know what you have to do to figure it out to get that person on board. But it's like believing in yourself and your ability, like that's where I have to go and this is what I have to do to get there. So I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to be it now. Mm-hmm. Not I'm becoming it, because you can stay in that. I see a lot of people, they stay in that gray area. Oh, I'm becoming it. I'm working on it. It's like, no, today, yesterday was the time. We'll settle for right now.
Yeah.
Like that's what I tell my clients all the time. Like, no, yesterday you should have done it. So we're going to do it today. Okay.
Love that.
That's it.
Yeah, that's so good. And then if you were to give one piece of advice to everybody on the call, or if there was just one piece of advice that you could give to everybody in the world, what would it be to help them be the best version of themselves?
Use the power of your mind to become limitless.
Ooh, that had all the feels in it, didn't it? That was amazing.
Because literally that's the only thing that's going to stop you. You know, like the strategy piece, when I start to get into that with people, that's easy. You know, yeah, okay, it may be painful sometimes or whatever. But the only reason why the strategy may be painful is because the mind isn't aligned with it. Mm. So we always need to be taking inventory of that mind and like managing it. It's like high performers have they like manage their mind. Fear only like all those low level emotions, those vibes that you absolutely have to just ditch, that aren't serving you, because you can't be an energetic match for a big, audacious, scary goal to achieve it if you're in fear all the time, or if you're in overwhelm, or you're in frustration, or I used to be the overwhelm queen. And that's why nothing was kind of happening. I was working all the time, like 16-hour days and getting nowhere, because I was just always overwhelmed. I'm always so busy. Oh my God. And it's like the minute I ditched that was the minute I scaled 7 figures, you know? So it's like you need to be in those high vibrational emotions all the time. And just, yeah, I think the mind is really where it's at.
Oh, I love that so much. And I want to finish there just because I've kept you on here for a long time, but it was just, you know, when something's just so good and you have so much knowledge and so much wisdom that I had to pick your brains more, because I just couldn't let you go without it. So I want to say thank you so much for taking time out of your extremely busy schedule to give the members just some incredible advice. So if they want to learn more about you, where can they find you?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, first of all, thank you for having me and trusting me with your time and your audience. I'm really grateful to be able to serve you and your community. So thank you. And anybody, if you want more information, you can go to tiffanyjulie.com, or all my social handles are I am Tiffany Julie for Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. So
perfect. And it's Julie with a Julie, isn't it?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Perfect. That's great. Well, I wanted to just say thank you so much again. And thank you everyone so much for watching. I hope you got loads out of it, and I'll look forward to speaking to you very soon. All right. Bye.
Okay. Bye.